Hi, Georgetown Selection Committee for the TEDx Talks. This is Manny Fassihi. I felt the need to really make this video because I didn't feel like I could fully express myself in the application, and ostensibly this is a speaking event, so I think it'd be good to just really kind of get it all off my chest. So I think an important context for these TED Talks is the recent attack on elite education by Bill Deresiewicz in his latest book, Excellent Sheep. And I think he raises some really interesting points about how elite education and institutions like Georgetown are pushing students in the direction of conformity. We see this, I saw this personally when I was at Stanford as an undergrad. A lot of my friends dropping out of the humanities in order to study CS to get into the tech scene because, well, it's really blowing up and there's a lot of money there. But I felt like it came at the cost of them searching for that moral imagination, for that desire to make the world a better place. I'm not saying that I totally resisted that, but I was able to, I think through my own experience of depression, to not get too caught up in that. And so TED, I think, is a really great platform for sharing ideas like this, to raising these issues into the public discourse at Georgetown. And it's something that I want to do because it's something I really care about. It's a really personal issue to me, the idea of using education as a mode for not only just like intellectual inquiry, but spiritual inquiry. And I think how I want to focus my talk is really on this idea of living open questions. And it's really inspired by this quote by the German poet Marie Rilke, who wrote, "Be patient towards all that is unsolved in your heart and try to love the questions themselves like locked rooms and like books that are now written in a very foreign tongue. Do not seek the answers which cannot be given to you because you will not be able to live them. And the point is to live everything. Live the questions now. Perhaps you will then gradually, without noticing it, live along some distant day into the answer." So what I think this quote really represents to me, what it really talks about, is this idea of using education as a mode for like spiritual curiosity, for searching for meaning, and to never be satisfied with any kind of dogmatic answer to big questions, to the questions that really compel us, that give us tension inside, the questions about what's a just society, what is the good life. These are questions that we never will have answers for. It's something that we live in tension with, in this kind of tragic gap, this gap between what can be and what's happening right now, the hard realities that we see. And we're always going back and forth between these kind of tensions. But sometimes, like for me, we fall too deeply into one side of it. We fall either into the kind of irrelevant idealism or the cynicism. And I fell into the cynicism really hard while I was in college, after a really kind of hard breakup where all my kind of romantic illusions basically fell apart with this girl that, yeah, I just really fell for her. But still, I think in that pain, in that depression, which I'm not really going to focus on too much, but it's an important point. In that pain, I found the energy to search for meaning, to search for something that mattered, and almost serendipitously, in a serendipity that can only happen in a college environment where all these ideas are going around and you never even know it, I came across this country of Bhutan, a country that is using gross national happiness as its main philosophy for development. Now, it sounds like a very fluffy thing, but what I discovered in the class, through discussions, through readings, is that their philosophy is really kind of really deeply injected with their values, about their Buddhist values, about interconnectedness, about what happiness really means, an enduring sense of well-being, and not just getting what you want, going to Disneyland. And it was a very transformative experience to not only be exposed to Bhutan and their philosophy, but also to Buddhist philosophy. It's almost like there was this interplay. And it was probably the first real spiritual experience I've ever had, kind of exploring this idea. Because, but underneath that, there are all these deeper questions about happiness. What is happiness? How do we become happier? And obviously, coming from where I was and what the kind of global context of the financial crisis, it made sense to ask these questions. And so I think this interplay between Bhutan asking these questions about how to make a happier society, how to sustain their own values in a world where increasingly development is pushing countries in a particular direction towards just GDP growth, I was able to find a question to formulate, to really kind of discover the curiosity that comes with these really important questions. And so it pushed me to go to Bhutan and really seek that out. And in Bhutan, it's not a perfect place. They also struggle. They also deal with challenges that come with development, that come with being a poor, under-resourced country. But that hasn't stopped them from really asking these questions about structuring a good society. And they haven't found the answers yet, but they operate almost like a startup country, not a country that really kind of fully institutionalizes anything, but that tries to innovate solutions. So for example, they have this policy screening tool for all policies in which they evaluate policies related to mining through the lens of gross national happiness. So they look at whether the policy will maximize psychological well-being. What will the effects be on the environment? What will the effects be on watersheds? And so they look at the world, and they look at their approach to development through these kind of lens of gross national happiness, of looking at whether people will be better off. And I think it's really rare to see that in the world today. Of course, I think that these ideas are gaining traction elsewhere now as a result of the financial crisis, as a result of seeing the crisis that capitalism is in right now. But I think no countries are really kind of pushing it on the national level like Bhutan. And it's continuing to kind of evolve as a country, especially now with the advent of democracy, something that I got to see firsthand in 2008 when I went there to see the Constitution being signed. And so I was so really compelled by the story of Bhutan that I was pushed to visit there. I went there in 2010 to intern for 4 months, and then I went again after I graduated in 2011 to work there. And I've been working there the past 3 years, really seeing and trying to participate in this vision for society, to work towards possibilities, as impossible as they may seem, of the possibility of a truly happy society. So ultimately, what I want to communicate is not really so much that everyone should go to Bhutan, or that Bhutan is doing the perfect thing. I want to communicate more the fact that I think education helps kind of open these avenues for possibilities, for asking questions and formulating the right questions, the questions that we as humans need to always ask, but that we can never fully answer because of all of these contradictions that we live with. But that's part of being human. Part of being, I think, one of the things that makes us unique is this ability to hold contradictions in our minds, these contradictions that makes people who see the people who are least lovable, who have committed the acts that cannot be forgiven, are forgiven and are need to be loved. I think we must live with this kind of tension between what is and what can be, the possibilities. And we need to learn to stand in this gap in order to live a meaningful life, to live a life that is enriching, and to not fall into the trap of becoming just an excellent sheep. So that's what I want to say. That's what I wanted to express and get off my chest and to share with you all. And if I'm not selected, it's fine. But I think this is a story that I really want to share. And if I'm given this opportunity, I would love to start a campus-wide kind of discussion on how we do that. How do we live with these open questions? How do we explore these questions and to really bring that into a national level? So thank you for considering me.